For me, I think one of the big things that keeps me up at night, which is everything that we're driven with at TechTalk, is just the amount of like genuinely smart and like talented people that are being overlooked currently in this market, and not necessarily because they don't have the skills or because they don't have like the qualifications or anything, but just because they physically don't know how to navigate this market.
So the market is like super, super saturated. Like in 1 week or like in one day, you can have like 1,000 people apply for that job, which is like completely crazy. So it's like going back to like, how can those people that actually have the skills be seen? Because realistically, like the recruiter and the company, they're not going to go through like 5,000 CVs that they receive.
Hi guys, very excited as usual to introduce you to the Future of Skills podcast, and today I have no other than the founders of TechTalk, and that is Roxanne, Taku, and Joana Rochu. Ladies, welcome. I'll do the intro just to say welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for accepting to come on the show, and just to give you guys a little bit of an intro on the ladies. So Roxanne, Taku, and Joana Rocha are the co-founders of TechTalk, as I was saying, UK-based organization on a mission to make tech careers truly accessible for everyone. Roxanne grew up in South Africa and moved to the UK in search of better opportunities. Like many job seekers, she faced rejection after rejection, like many do still today, nowadays, right? Especially with all the recent changes. But eventually landed her dream role. Then came 2023, the tech layoffs, another obstacle, right? And instead of giving up, she upskilled, rebranded, and received offers from global giants like Salesforce and HubSpot. So there's a story there we're going to tap into. And then Joana began in Brazil, where building an international career was something that she had on her mind from the ground up. So especially the one that required visa sponsorship here in the UK when she arrived. So it felt initially nearly impossible, isn't it? But then she persevered, she persisted. She moved to the UK, earned her place in the fintech world, and rose to become a marketing leader in a highly competitive industry. Their journeys are why TechTalk was born, to educate, inspire, and equip job seekers, especially women, immigrants, and professionals from underrepresented backgrounds, with the tools they needed to break into tech, from such as hands-on CVs and LinkedIn reviews, to career coaching and interactive workshops that are demystifying the job hunt. So ladies, in under a year, you've been already mastering a lot of successes, such as you've helped over 200 people get amazing roles within companies such as American Express, MasterCard, Adobe, and Salesforce. There's a lot to tap into today. So welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start from the traditional question that we have on the show, and that is something that I absolutely love asking simply because it gives a hint into your background, into who you are and how you see yourself as well, right? So my question is, please, before we dive in, please tell us in 3 words of your choice, how do you see yourself? Who would like to go first?
Ooh. You can go, Rox.
Okay, I'll go first.
Please,
okay, so I would say 3 words that describe me. Passionate, a very passionate person, whether that's work, personal life, the way I express myself. Versatile, a lot of layers to me. I have a very international background, and I think that's created a lot of versatility in me. The last one is a bit of a cheat code because it's 2 words, but it's unapologetically me, something I've grown to become unapologetically me. Yeah.
Thank you. And Joana?
Nice. I think I will start with adaptable because I've lived in a lot of different countries and I've had to adapt to different situations, different scenarios. So it's definitely something that I think defines me. I think the other one is resilient. So I'm not a person that gives up easily. Like I give my 100% to get something done. And I think always will. And then the third one, I think I'll go with passionate as well. Like I'm very passionate about like a lot of things, like my career, even like outside of work as well. And I think that's what drives me, is like my passion of doing things that I really enjoy.
Thank you both for the answers. I think it's the right time here to actually let the people know how I've come across you guys. Well, so there are different routes that I come across when approaching, the next coming guests. And the one route that I absolutely adore is just having that creativity surfaced on Instagram. And on Instagram, you've been featuring a lot of your content and you've been quite creative with the surfacing of that. Like you either talk in front of a camera, making it very casual, or either you come up with, some of the scrollers on the camera to show, the CV that should look like this or shouldn't look like that, and you're very inventive with the use of format, probably one of the reasons why you've grown from 5K to 250K in just a matter of 1 year. So I've noticed you on Instagram, that's the short story told, right? But other than that, what I think transpired is the fact that you've organized such an amazing offline event that I've been part of, that I said to myself, these ladies are really into something here. So let's invite them, talk a little bit about what they want to do, about the careers in tech. So in terms of the brand and how you've all set it up, I know that it's something that we want to dive in a little bit more into details. But before we do so, another traditional question that we have on the podcast is trying to identify if there were any particular pillars, moments, or mentors that have defined you ladies and what that was. But other than that, what have been some of the key moments that have formed you in return?
Yeah, I think for me, like going back to my previous answer, I think it's definitely moving to a lot of different countries that has definitely like defined me in terms of like, again, being resilient, being able to adapt to different situations, and also like going through the world on my own and like having to figure things out. So like I lived across like the US, we lived in China together, I lived in France. So I think like that gave me a lot of like perspective on like all of the different things that you can do, and like a lot of different people in the world as well. And how it's also like hard to be like an immigrant and like moving from country to country. Because I came in the UK as well, like needing a visa and then like going through that journey. So I know how hard it is. And I think like just going through that, like just gave me much more like perspective into everything.
The multicultural element as well, isn't it? And plus you mentioned your adaptability. So you were adapting to various cultural environments. Excellent, thank you. And Roxanne?
Definitely the same. So growing up, I've lived in quite a few countries. I've lived in like England, Nigeria, Alaska, South Africa,
Alaska too,
Argentina, China, all very different countries as well. So I think like naturally that brought like a lot of curiosity to me, like even when I was a kid, not necessarily knowing, like because I was so surrounded by things that were always very different, I would just ask questions like, oh, why is the weather like this in this place, or why do people talk like this in this place, why do people greet with a kiss in this place, but in the other it's more like a shake of a hand or a bow. Like all of these little things I think drove me to being very curious, which also translated itself into my career as well. Like it always made me very want to like understand things, like the why, how it works, like how companies grow, how people work, things like that. And then in terms of like a pivotal moment, I think especially with TechTalk, or like, you know, why essentially we got into this, a big pivotal moment for me was when after my first job, so my first job was in sales, I started at a startup, and then I really wanted to move into like a big tech company. But I didn't necessarily have like any big logos, like in terms of my CV, so whether it was like internships or anything like that. And in order to move into that big tech company, like I knew that I was going to basically have to stand out in order to really get there. And so, you know, everything related to like CV, LinkedIn, networking is I kind of like fell in love with it and became like a little bit obsessed with it during that time. And I think like that natural incline, like same what Joana was saying, right? She's always been very interested in careers, like same for me. Like I've always been very interested in career development. I've always naturally surrounded myself with people and friends that were also very interested in their careers. And so I think like that coupled with like the knowledge of like that obsession that I had a bit during that time of like what it took to like break into big tech is kind of like the foundation of like knowing that this is something I wanted to do eventually and like, you know, share with the world as well.
What I'm hearing from both of you, multiculturalism, right? The fact that you're adaptive, the fact that you're curious as well. And I would add another word that you shared, Roxanne, you said unapologetic. So I would just join the two, curiosity and being the unapologetic about that drive, right? But it's also the obsession, as you mentioned, right? The passion that you need to have when you're kind of diving in and just, you know, being open to just new experiences, isn't it? And as part of that, so we have tapped into the pivotal moment, right? What has formed you in your view? As part of the current mode, what do you think keeps you up at night? And that's a beautiful question. I've literally just borrowed from one of the guests on the show. Again, I'll mention this because it's something I need to give credit back. It's Matthew. And Matthew is the founder of 9 Others. So he usually comes up with this question every time that the founders come at a dinner table. He's like, what keeps you up at night? So what keeps you up at night, ladies?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think one of the big things that keeps me up at night, which is everything that we're driven with at TechTalk, is just the amount of like genuinely smart and like talented people that are being overlooked currently in this market. And not necessarily because they don't have the skills or because they don't have like the qualifications or anything, but just because they physically don't know how to navigate this market. So whether it's somebody who was born in the UK, but they were just never really taught, like, okay, this is what you need to be doing when you're speaking with employers or in order to catch their attention, or, you know, this is how employers think, so this is how you should be positioning yourself so that they see the match between them and you. Or if it's somebody like us who, you know, we didn't grow up in the UK, we grew up in different countries, and then we come to the UK and we realize the market's quite different to what, you know, we were used to growing up. So really, I think the thing that keeps me up at night is like figuring out a way to basically all of these people that feel like they're not being seen, helping them get the tools and guidance that they need to be seen in this market so that they can then tap their potential.
So would you say that this is more of a competitive advantage that you're offering them in order to be able to stand out? Because the actual heritage, the leverage of who they are is there. It's just a case of adding that visibility factor on top, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a lot on like helping people better position themselves. And I mean, I'm on a background in marketing. So for me, like that's everything, like knowing how to position your brand, knowing how to sell yourself, position yourself. So I think like looking from those lenses, like there's so many people with like so much potential, like Rox is saying, but they are not able to like show that or translate that in a market that is so saturated. So it's just like, how can we make sure that these people that like have the right skills and like they really want that job, they get it? Because like me interviewing as a hiring manager, I see so many people that go on the interview, like they're like, they don't care. Like they are there and like they managed to get the interview, but like I've interviewed people like on staircase before. So
right.
Like you see a bit
That's
of
adaptability.
Yeah, to hear that one. No, so yeah, so it really like breaks my heart to see like people that really have the potential, but like they just can't get like the foot on the door. So I think that's why we do everything that we do, is like to try to get people like to create that visibility for themselves.
Thank you for the great answers here, because I would resonate with the fact of knowing how to position yourself being really key here. Before I would invite you guys, I have tapped into your Career Accelerator program, which you have launched, and I've been gobsmacked to see how many tools. I mean, I'm a marketer, but that's not just advertising, right? Literally, just as someone who is interested in terms of finding out various forms and tools of how to better position yourself, I think it's equally important for everyone, be it with or without a job, right? We need to know how to do these things. And so what you've got in there, and I found really interesting, is that fact that even your covering letter, like we talk about CVs, we talk about interviews, right? But it's the covering letter as well that makes a lot of difference, versus I think it's somehow and most often is being overlooked as well, because a lot of people just don't, get that effort in terms of filling in. But you have an entire, almost like a science behind it, how to make it personalized. We talk a lot about making your CV personalized, but the cover letter could also have a structure that would fit to a certain company that you're applying for. So talking about all of these elements, you're basically inspiring me now to this other questions, and I'm brainstorming as we go. The question is, in terms of your CVs, what do you think it's making the job harder for candidates? Is it the being seen through your CV, like literally the CV application phase, or the interview phase? What is becoming more difficult for the candidates?
I think it's definitely the first, because right now, like, we're living in a new era of like AI, and like so many, especially after COVID, like so many people can apply for jobs now, like not being in the UK. So you have people applying from Europe, you have people applying from the US. So the market is like super, super saturated. Like in 1 week or like in one day, you can have like 1,000 people apply for that job, which is like completely crazy. So it's like going back to like, how can those people that actually have the skills be seen? Because realistically, like the recruiter and the company, they're not going to go through like 5,000 CVs that they receive. So that's why like a lot of companies now are relying a lot on networking and referral. And I actually pulled like a stat on that like 70% or 80% of like jobs are being filled through referral right now.
Yeah.
And like I can see that even in my company, that like a lot of the jobs that come in are through referral and through network, because companies manage to hire faster and they manage to hire for cheaper as well, because again, like they're not spending 4 months to hire for a position. So I think like getting that foot on the door is the hardest thing, because of so many applicants that are in the market right now and like how saturated it is. So actually like standing out from everyone else is the hardest thing. I think once you like have your foot on the door and you go through the interview stage, like as long as you're really prepared, like and you have the skills, you can go through. So, but getting seen for me is like the hardest thing right now.
I do agree.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think like even I was on a coaching yesterday and I was saying like right now this job market is like a fight for visibility. And like what we're trying...
Well put, by the way.
Yeah, and like what we're trying to help you with and like is just getting you visible because, I mean, literally I was looking at his CV and I was telling him, I was like, listen, your CV is actually not badly written. Like, you know, if I were just to look at your CV in terms, he was a recent graduate, so like, you know, doesn't have like a ton of experience. And I was like, actually, if I look at your CV, it's actually pretty well written for somebody who's a recent graduate. I think, you know, like you managed to use your projects and experience in a very good way, and you communicated the impact really well as well, which I think is good. But there wasn't like the strategy of like the keywords weren't there. So actually I asked him, I was like, show me three job adverts that you want to be applying to. And so he sent, like, we looked at them together and I was like, okay, now let's look at these keywords and let's literally control F. Are they in your CV? They're not in your CV. So that already, even though it's well written, even though like visually, if you were to look at it, like without even going into the detail, it looks good. But then it's not actually matching to the roles that you're looking to apply to. So that means that it's not actually being suggested to the recruiters in the first place. Because as Joana said, like recruiters are having like hundreds, thousands of CVs in front of them, but they're only looking at like the top 10 to 20% that either like whatever system that they're using is proposing to them. And so if you're not part of that 10 to 20%, you're either being ghosted and like not getting any of these responses, which is why people are getting so frustrated. And then also like on top of, you know, the fact that there's like a lot of the global competition. So now like we're not only competing with people within the United Kingdom, but then also with AI, there's just so many mass applying. So it means that, you know, there's so many tools that people will just put their CV in it and like that tool will just apply to any role. So recruiters are also just overloaded with like irrelevant, essentially, CVs, which makes it that much more difficult because it means that the people who are talented and the people who are actually a good fit for that role are being lost in a sea of all of the other CVs that aren't fit for that role. So it's actually a bit of like a lose-lose situation, to be honest, for all parties involved. The recruiters, the people who are good at applying and are the good fit for the role, but they just don't know like the strategies or like the tips that they need to use in order to be seen, plus the people that are just like randomly applying and not getting the responses that they need. So like that fight for visibility right now in this job market is essentially what we're helping people with.
Yeah, I can't resonate more, in fact, because, you know, in my pro bono activity, just giving back a little bit to the society, I'm trying to also consult the University of Birmingham graduates as a career advisor. Now, what I've seen is exactly what you're saying in terms of the good CVs might be, and the good candidates might be overlooked in a sea of so many others because the companies these days are having to apply to utilize these other tools, such as maybe AI screening tools. And that's the other question, because both of you have mentioned AI as part of the process, right, which the recruiters are utilizing these days. But I wonder, because as part of the activity, as part of the podcast, I'm being sent all sorts of news updates from the people who watch the podcast. And most recently, literally, I think 2 days ago, I received a news about a company, I think it's called Workday in the US, who are, it's being used by so many companies in tech, and not only in tech. I think most recently, a company that had an interesting role that I've seen on LinkedIn, like thousands to a point have applied for. I think it was a role within a well-spotted company, not in tech though, but in retail. And what was interesting about that, they were utilizing Workday as well. But then the news was saying that Workday was actually sued for the fact that they were utilizing a age discriminator factor because people over 40s wouldn't get seen because the AI would see them as overqualified, for the role. Yeah, so I wonder, in terms of like overutilizing the AI tools by the recruiters, what might be your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can go on about AI for a really long time.
Cool.
But
That's a great topic.
Yeah, there is on both sides, right? You have like AI supporting job seekers, and then you have AI supporting recruiters and supporting companies. Mm-hmm. On supporting job seekers, like if I see another company that is like upload your CV here and I'll apply for you.
Yeah.
It's like, honestly, I throw my phone on the floor.
Just in the bin.
Yeah, because this is just making things so much worse. But
Yes.
anyways, on the side of the recruiter, like I do think going forward, companies, this is going to be like the big push in the next 2 years, is like companies being smarter about like how they are screening the candidates.
Yeah.
So like they can reduce that pool. So like a couple of things that are like obvious is like location. If the location doesn't match the location that they're looking for, automatically disqualified. Keywords, if it doesn't have the keywords, automatically disqualified. Now you're saying like there's also age discrimination. And one thing that people have been saying a lot now is to actually remove your university years. They like you graduated from your CV.
Nice point. Mm-hmm.
Probably because of that.
Yeah, because they can work out the age that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's usually like
Excellent.
how they
Okay.
work out the age. So like removing that from your CV as well. And like usually I don't like putting profile pictures because again, I also don't think that adds much or anything to the process. Like you also have LinkedIn. So like
Fair
LinkedIn
enough. Yep.
already like tells who you are, because there's also a lot of talks on like biases, and like with LinkedIn nowadays, like I don't see backtracking, and I feel like it's gonna be there. Like people are gonna know who you are. So at the end of the day, like if a company is discriminating you based on your age or based on your profile, like you shouldn't be working at that company, because like you're not gonna be happy there. Like they don't have a good culture.
Yeah.
So I think companies are going to be developing more like AI into, especially like Greenhouse and Ashby, like those type of companies that they do like the ATS and the screening for companies. They're going to be developing much more, and like they're going to be smarter about how is it that they're like screening the candidates to automatically reject the people that should be automatically rejected. So I think that's going to be inevitable. It's just to see like how that's going to play out in the next couple of years.
Yeah. I don't think like using AI is necessarily a bad thing. It just depends on how it's set up. Like if you're setting it up very, strictly to disqualify candidates maybe from a certain university or of a certain age, then yeah, that's a problem. Like if, you're prompting AI to look at a candidate that way and disqualify them, then that's an issue. But I think, if you're using AI just to make sure that, you're actually getting the right CVs in front of you, then I don't necessarily think that's an issue. But I do think like it just means that job seekers need to be aware of that and like stay up to date with those trends. Otherwise, they will be left behind. And I just wanted to add to the point about the university, because I actually think removing the age is beneficial on both ends. Like I personally stopped putting the year on my university and I actually managed to get interviews for positions that were like more senior. So I actually found it beneficial in both ways. Like not only for
Great
like
tip, ladies.
yeah, like not only for like maybe more senior people who are worried about the age discrimination, and this has actually come up to us. Like people have come up to me and said this as well, or even during our career accelerator program said like, listen, I feel like I'm potentially being discriminated because of my age here, especially, in tech companies where everything's like new, innovative. They want like, young people. I feel like I'm not being given the chances. So I would say definitely remove the age, but I mean the year. But honestly, it's also beneficial from the other way around, because ever since I managed to remove my year, like I managed to get like more senior positions that I don't think I would have been considered for, because they can quickly do the math.
So if I understand your flow, it seems that, the utilization of the AI tools in recruitment is not something that is going to be avoided in any of the sides, right? It's just a trend that, we as those ones who are on the other side need to be aware of. And, the candidates likewise need to be prepared in order to better craft their CVs in such a way that they can still be seen, knowing that those potential, let's say, faults in how AI sees things for the recruitment side can happen. So if that's the case, just be smart in terms of finding out, as you say, from your perspective, the counseling, the type of advice that you can get for the career purposes that you can then use as your ammunition almost, right? So
Exactly.
just
Yeah,
get those tools. And that's where we're nicely going into the questions that are prepared for you regarding the TechTalk, the brand that you've set up. And I said you've crafted it in a naming that would reflect that the career is in tech, and you've just put it like the TechTalk. I've literally just mentioned it was a great choice for the brand name. Now, in under a year, TechTalk helped hundreds of people land roles at companies, as I was saying, Adobe, Salesforce, MasterCard, and American Express, across 5 continents, actually, not just UK, isn't it? So what sets TechTalk apart from other career advisory platforms, would you say, and what is your USPs?
Good question. I mean, I think there are a lot of like players in the market, especially where we are right now. And like a lot of them, like a lot of what we see is like Instagram accounts or like people like trying to position themselves as like selling a course or like selling something that's going to get the person like their dream job. So one thing that people always come to me and they're like, oh yeah, like, do you guarantee a job offer? Because like these other guys do. I'm like, no, like I can't guarantee a job offer. Like if they're guaranteeing you one, they're lying, because there are a lot of like variables in the market, like your positioning, also like the seasonality, like how the market is reacting, because right now it's an employer's market. So there's so many things that we can't control. But I think we just look at it as like, we really want to build like a company and like a foundation that can help as many people as possible, and not just be like, because we started on Instagram, like not just be like an Instagram page, you know, like building the foundations, like that's going to be able to like get to as many companies as possible, like partner with universities, partner with other businesses as well, to like also increase their visibility. So we think of it as like not only helping people get into tech, but like helping people build fulfilling careers in tech. And basically the reason why we got into the space to start with is because we didn't see a lot of people, like in the UK specifically, if you say you work in tech, it's like a coding role. Usually like everyone, when we said like, oh, we work in tech, they're like, oh, you're a software engineer? We're like, no, I work in marketing. Whether in the US, if you say tech, it's like tech industry. So like this is a mentality in the UK that they don't have yet. And there are not a lot of people talking about like marketing, sales, customer support, like these type of opportunities in tech companies, which are huge. And like when we went out of university, like we also didn't know about that. Like we kind of fell into it. So we wanted to like increase that visibility into tech as like an industry, especially in the UK, which is like booming so much and has so much opportunity, and kind of like just take that to people and like as many people as we can. So I think there is a part of like the education, but also, just reaching like as many people and educating as many people as we possibly can, and not like selling them the dream, because at the end of the day, like we can help you make yourself visible, but it needs to come from you. Like I can't force you to like, be applying for jobs or like be really eager basically. And do the work. Exactly. Right. So yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Like I think our USPs is definitely like, I think people like the way that we teach. It's very digestible. It's very actionable. And we try to make it as holistic as possible, right? So we explain the why behind it. We don't just say, this is the tip and you should do it because we're telling you to do it. We're saying this is the tip and like you should do it because this is how hiring managers are looking at your CV, and you can trust us because we've hired and like we've been on both ends. So not only do we have the story of a job seeker and we understand what it feels like, and like we've been through the process of like having to tweak things until we see the results ourselves, but we also have the view of the hiring manager where we see the job seekers and like what it is that they're doing wrong or what it is that they're doing right in order to stand out, and like we're able to package that in a very digestible way that people really, really like it. So that's one of the feedbacks that we always get. It's like, it's very actionable, you know, it's very to the point. And there's also, it's very consistent. Like we have a framework, right? Like we don't just say something because it's a trend. Like we say something because we believe it and because we've seen that it works, whether it's for us or whether it's for our clients, and like people trust that. And then I think the other big thing is results. Like, you know, that's one of the biggest things that people always tell me is like, listen, I look at your Instagram and like, you guys are getting results. You're helping people land jobs, and you're helping people land jobs, which is one thing. But there's also the growth in it, which I think we talk about a lot. Like, you know, we talk a lot about mindset, and we talk a lot about like, okay, great, you've landed the interview, but like now in order to do well in the interview, you know, you need to be showcasing your critical thinking, and like you need to be really like going above and beyond in terms of like reflecting on what it is that you've done well and how that's not only set you apart, but like basically helped you grow as an employee. Like we don't just, it's not, the actionable thing is one thing, but I think there's a layer on top of it that like people kind of take with their journey afterwards as well. Like that's one of the things, like even as part of the Career Accelerator program, they say it's like it was such a strong investment for them because, you know, this is now something that not only it helped them land the job today, but like now they have these skills and these mindsets that they can take in 2, 3, 5, 10 years time. So I think, that's a big thing. It's like we really look at it holistically when we're educating people, and like people can feel that. And I think that that's one of the things in our coaching that differentiates us. And then from the business side, like we're essentially building an ecosystem, right? So right now we have a very strong audience, and we've been very good at like educating, and like we found our framework and methodology for educating people that people really like, and like it's yielding results. But what we also want to do is create this ecosystem where we're not only going to be teaching people, we're also going to be connecting people with companies and connecting people with recruitment agencies.
Love that. So it's like a network, right?
Exactly. So it's not just, we're not just like talking the talk, but like we're actually walking the walk by like making those connections, or even being able to create like a network referral within our community, things like that. So now like this is kind of like the next level of like building that ecosystem so that we can help people land their jobs with above just the education level.
Thank you for the answer, Roxanne. And also, likewise, in terms of that element of networking, as part of that offline event that you've organized in London, I remember there was this element of allowing the candidates to actually come equipped with their CVs, so that the CVs will be seen by dedicated recruitment professionals who would walk through and actually tell you, oh, something immediately, is being spotted, so that you can change something on the go. And that's, I think, is priceless, because you're connecting not only, candidates to the companies that are relevant to them, but it's also to the recruitment professionals who can actually spot errors in the CV and actually guide you in the right direction. On that note, you've also mentioned, Joana, the element of why, which is really important to help them to understand why I'm actually doing it, and why my CV is the one that is being relevant for the role that I'm applying for. Because I'm making a parallel here with the statement that yesterday I've interviewed Sabina Nawaz, who is essentially the ex-director of HR at Microsoft for 15 years. And she's also been the personal trainer to the likes of Bill Gates and other successors of Bill Gates. And I remember when asked about the type of motivational factors of how important that is to be motivated in a given role, she said, actually, there is a myth around it. And the fact that we say, oh, but the managers need to motivate the employees to do whatever they need to do. And she's like, no, that's not their role. Their role is actually to be the ambassadors of a purpose, to give them the why, and then they themselves need to be motivated to find that element as to why they need to respond to that purpose. Hence, you're saying, and my parallel here is that you're saying, okay, you're giving them the tools, right? You're sifting through the CVs, the cover letter support, the interview support, but ultimately it's them who need to be the drivers and the engine behind it, to actually do the talk ultimately, right? Once you're giving them all of the guidance. So I personally find it priceless. And as part of the actual impact that you've had, let's talk a little bit about the Instagram experience, because you've grown from 5K to 250K in how quickly? Give me a bit more an accurate estimate.
1 year?
Yeah.
1 year. Isn't that fascinating? How?
How? No, a lot of A/B testing. So right. I think again, coming back to my marketing, I like A/B testing with everything. So yes. I think A/B testing is super important, like trying to see what the audience wants. Because at the end of the day, you need to listen to people.
Yes.
You can't just assume this is what people want to hear. It's okay, by talking to people, and we were talking to people on a regular basis, what are the things that you are struggling with? And these are the content that we need to put in front of them. So that dictated what we were doing. And then in terms of the format, it was A/B testing and trying to be bold as well, because I think now with anything, if you want to build a successful brand, you need to be bold. Mm-hmm. You need to think outside of the box, and you need to do things outside of the box as well. So I think we tried a lot of that, and it resonated with people. So I think listening to people was key, and just doing the content. And we still do that today. It's all of the content we produce is for people. So we're always actively listening, seeing what they need, what they want, and then we put that in front of them.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah,
Roxanne, what do you think?
I think playing with the formats as well, basically understanding, because a lot of what I mentioned before is we're very digestible, and like
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that people really like about us, because this job market is complex. There's a lot to teach, and so it can feel a bit overwhelming, but I think we managed to make it very digestible for people, and a lot of that was also by playing through the formats. And once we ended up finding the format, so whether it was more like visual or like how we choose to break it down, and once we see like, okay, this clearly people understand, then kind of like repeating that or adding on it, I think is something that also helped grow like our Instagram really quickly. Like one of the things that, you know, some of our reels that did the best was everything related to CVs, and like really breaking it down, and like, you know, then people having questions about that, or kind of, you know, asking like, okay, now do the same but for a CV for somebody in sales, and like now do the same for somebody in finance. So yeah, kind of us figuring out the format, which meant that people were able to digest that information, I think was something that was really key, because then we were able to like repeat that and continue like using that format, which kind of made us grow really fast.
Yeah, and getting comfortable in front of the camera as well. The
Yeah.
first videos that we have,
Oh,
Jesus. Every time I go back and I look at it, I'm like, oh God, this was really bad.
I remember when we did our first intro, it was just like an about us. It was meant to be like 1 minute. I think it took us 2 hours to do.
Fair enough,
like, and it was just something like, you know, hey, my name's Roxanne, my name's Joana, like this weird tech talk, and this is what we're here to do. So it's just something you put on your highlight that's literally meant to be 1 minute. It literally took us like an hour to 2 hours. I felt so bad for my roommate. Like, she was just there like, are you going to do this for like the 600th time? And we're going to be like, yeah, we are, until we feel comfortable getting it right. So yeah, I think definitely like getting comfortable in front of the camera, or like figuring out even what to say and like how to say it. So should I say this information first, or should I say like even like the order? Like there really is an art to it. Like I think people sometimes don't realize until they get into the social media game, and then they realize like, okay, this is actually a full-time job, because I think it looks easy from the outside, because you say, okay, it's a minute,
finally,
exactly,
right?
and it's a minute, so people are like, a minute, 5 times a week, like that's not that much. Meanwhile, putting that 1 minute together, like you had to think about the script, you had to think about the concept behind the script, which that itself can take a while. Then you have to film it, which depending on the type of video, sometimes that also takes a while. Then you have to edit it. Like literally that 1 minute video can take quite a bit of time behind it.
Yes.
And so yeah,
Resonate.
I think it's easy to underestimate the amount of like effort and like thinking that it actually takes behind like growing a successful social media account. And so yeah, the fact that we managed to do something that resonates, I think is really, like, to me it's very like motivating.
Definitely empowering, if anything, isn't it?
Yeah,
it gives
I
you
love
that
word.
extra, pursuit in the path of your purpose, your why, right? It's like you're the ambassadors of your why here, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it's like getting there.
Even to the point where, people reach out to us and they say, I managed to land a job just by looking through your free content. And that to me, I'm like, that's great. Like, even without using our services, like our information is so digestible, so actionable, and so timely that even by obsessing, you have to obsess because there's a lot of information in there. So you have to basically watch every single video and save every single video. But even by doing that, like we've had people land roles. I think the other day, like somebody came up to you and they said they landed a role at Amazon by looking, software engineer role at Amazon, by looking through our free content, using our free resources, and like, and again, but you could tell he was somebody who was obsessed then, because he went through it and he, clearly tried to he digested the content and like went a level deeper, and like managed to motivate himself with all of the tooling. And so he ended up getting a job at like a fantastic company. So these kind of things, like whenever people send messages, like telling us like they landed a role, or like, oh, like I managed to land my first interview in this much time and stuff, like this is literally the motivation where I'm like, if I'm having a bad day, I just always read through the testimonials. Like, okay, it's fine.
See, that's a good
This is
recipe,
the why.
isn't it?
This is the why behind all of
the
this.
why,
Yeah.
and the fact that, as you said, it motivates you in return, like after so much work that you put in it, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of it's like a cycle almost. You put in and then you get back. We've tapped into an interesting topic here, which is appearing comfortable and confident in front of the camera. And what I've seen actually in your offline event, again, you see all of these touch points, they add up ultimately, because what I noticed as part of your offline event is that partnership that you have with ResLink by becoming the co-founder of ResLink. And so both of you are now growing that as part of your offering, which I thought, that actually resonates. And most recently, again, talking about signals and how they ultimately add up, I think it was 2 days ago that I've watched behind the scenes video of Stephen Bartlett, who talked about CVs and whatnot, right? And there was that element where he opened up the ground by saying, you know, the reason why we've hired this lady, who I think is the head of their happiness department. And he said the only reason why she's landed that role was because she was different in terms of approaching it. And by different, he said that she actually filmed a video of herself by saying why she would be the great candidate for the role, right? But filming a video is something that you intrinsically have embedded in your ResLink feature. How does that work, and why are you such believers? Because I've seen the reasons of it working. It kind of, gets you a little bit more having this competitive advantage. Right, of course, is that element of in the future. I know I've asked that question right during the event. It's like, in future, do you see that if a lot of people will be doing that, how else would you be getting that competitive advantage? But let's focus on the present now. What do you see happening? And then we'll dive into the future.
Yeah, so I definitely one is going back to the visibility part.
Yes.
So like you are in a space now where you have a lot of people applying. That's not going to get better anytime soon. Like tools are just going to get smarter about how they're screening candidates. So like, how can you stand out in front of everyone else? And this is like basic like sales practice, is like sending videos, sending voice notes, like trying to be different from what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
And the moment that you are different, people start paying attention. So like that's going back to like being bold and like being creative and like being out there. So I think video now like enables you to do that, because one, like there's not a lot of people using it.
Yes,
and two,
definitely.
Video is one of the best ways for you to actually showcase yourself. And like one of the reasons why we decided to onboard in this project is because we also saw that the process now is not humanized. Like you have people screening, like tools screening the CVs, like AI doing all of the work. Like recruiters don't really see like the person behind it. It's just like, it's just a piece of paper. So like, how can you, one, resonate more with the recruiter so they see you as like a person?
Yep.
And then two, how can you put your value up front, like in front of them, of like the things that they care about? Because it's all going back to like tailoring your CV, your cover letter, whatever it is, you need to tailor to that job that you're applying for. If you're able to like send them a pitch, like a 1-minute pitch, convincing them why is it that you're a good fit for that role, like they don't need to look at your CV, because you're already like narrating them all of the story and like in the sequence that they care about.
Yes.
And the third thing that I would add is just like having a control environment, because one thing is that like first impression counts, and first impression is everything. When I go into an interview with someone, like I can see in the first like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, like if they're going to be a good fit, just based on like how they're perceiving themselves. And a lot of people get nervous on interviews. And I think like with a video pitch, you kind of have, like you can do that at your own time.
Yeah.
And you have that safe space. So like you don't need to, like your first impression doesn't need to be like when you're going on an interview and like just saying your pitch when you're super nervous. You can do that at your own time. You can record it. You can like see how you want to showcase yourself, and then send that forward. So I think it also like gives that level of being comfortable about like talking a little bit better about yourself in your own environment, and then sending that forward to the recruiter, instead of like, again, like making sure that your first impression is only when they get on an interview with you. So I think it's like such a strong message that you can put through video.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like video resumes or ResLink, what I like about it is that you can control your narrative, which I think is huge. Like with a CV, as you know, you would have seen from our content, like there's a very specific like structure format that you need to follow, which means like it's kind of hard to showcase your passion. Like yes, you can showcase your experience, your skills, and the impact you've made, but like the passion for the job, the passion for this company, it's harder in a CV to do that. So the video resume allows you to do that, which I really like, and it allows you to like control your narrative in like a lot clearer way. Like you can say, okay, yes, I've done all of this, but these are the things that I want you to know, and like how it can add value to your team, which I think is great. Now, one of the things which I think you touched upon as well is like, you know, people not feeling comfortable in front of the camera, and like that's one of like the things, like barriers that we need to overcome. And to be honest, like we get a lot of this feedback of like, you know, like I don't want to be filming myself, you know, I don't feel comfortable doing this, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, I think realistically, like even outside of video resumes, video is going to be showing itself more and more. And like we're already seeing it in the interview process, right? Like in order to before even getting to the screening stage with the recruiters, we're seeing more and more companies ask to submit a video resume. A video where like maybe they ask you a specific question and like you have to film yourself answering that question.
Yep.
So first of all, we're seeing it already in the recruitment space, and like it's going to be showing up more and more. So I think, when we say job seekers need to keep up with the trends, like that's already one thing. And then the other thing I would say is like, it's already there. Like, if you think about it, how many interviews are being done virtually today? Like, you're already in an element of filming yourself or having to be in front of the camera in order for you to be perceived in the way that you want to be perceived. So, like, not even thinking 1 to 2 years' time. Like, think about it today. Like, how many of your interviews are you doing that are virtual? And, like, do you actually think about how you are being perceived in those interviews? Because, again, as Joana was saying, like, you would be surprised by the amount of people that, like, even the basics like isn't there, like in terms of like the lighting or just like the way that you're trying to get that connection across the camera, like trying to make the closest form of like eye contact, even though it's like across a screen, or even just like even little things. Like sometimes I see people on interviews, like I could only see like this much of their head. I'm like, why are you not taking up the full space?
Yes.
Like think about it as if you were face to face in someone, you don't want just to see like a corner of your face, like you want to see the entire thing. So I think even in today's recruitment practice, like a lot of these interviews are being done virtually anyways. Mm-hmm. So being comfortable being in front of the camera is something that realistically you should feel comfortable doing today, because otherwise you're likely not performing that well in virtual interviews to start with. So I think, again, like almost see this as practice, and it's also a really good way for you to practice your pitch. So think about like the way I think you should be thinking about your video resume is like a glorified way of like, tell me about yourself. Mm-hmm. So it allows you to practice, which you're going to get at every single interview stage, like whether it's the recruiter, hiring manager, your last stage, you're going to get that question every single time. So just practice that one already and like put that one forward to the people that you want to see it. So yeah, I think like I get that the video thing is uncomfortable. Like we've been through that ourselves, like having to learn how to be in front of camera for Instagram. But I would say if there's like this mind block where you think like, I'm just going to do it and like never find a way to put myself in front of video, like I think you're eventually going to be left behind. So yeah, I think rather, be ahead of the trend or like be kind of, keeping up with what's going on rather than, regretting it like a couple of years down the line.
Absolutely love the answers, ladies, and because we've nicely tapped here into the present, into the faults of a CV, into the some of the recipes of how to position yourself and the visibility game that we all need to master, whichever level are we in, right? But it's also that element of how to stay ahead of the curve in terms of utilizing the right set of tools to be able to give yourself that competitive edge. And that nicely leads us into the gamification route of our interview, and that is the Flash Q&A. So the Flash Q&A is something that I usually put at the end of the interview so that we can have a little bit more of a taste about your visions, about your views around certain things. So are you ready?
Yes.
Yay, excellent. So first question to any of you is first job you've ever had?
I'm trying to remember. I was sales, kind of like a business development in like a cryptocurrency company.
Right.
At the time when crypto was booming. So that was like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, same. Also sales.
So take a little bit more of a first route in terms of, trying to understand the audience by walking and talking in that sense, isn't it?
Yeah, literally.
Cool. LinkedIn post or Instagram reel?
LinkedIn for me.
Instagram reel for me.
See, good to have the both views. Resume red flag that's instantly fixable.
For me, it's when it's not tailored to the role. Like it's like, if you're applying for sales, make sure that the experience you're showcasing are showcasing sales skills. And it seems very basic, but there's a lot of CVs that I see that are just not actually tailored to the role. So that's like a very foundational thing. That's like an immediate red flag for me.
Thank you. Going to the basics.
Yeah, I think like not putting like the headline is definitely one, and putting like unnecessary information. So like people nowadays put like interests, hobbies, and like references on request, and like even like their full address. So like there are a bunch of people putting like irrelevant information on the CV. So I think like just removing all of that and keeping like what is actually important.
Thank you, ladies. Next one, most inspiring tech leader right now for any of you?
For me is Cristina Junqueira. She is one of the founders of Nubank, which is like one of the biggest digital banks, or the biggest in Brazil.
Right.
And in the world.
Yeah.
In the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like, yeah, she's one of like the few like female leaders that like got to that space, and like especially in a country like Brazil. So she definitely inspires me a lot, especially on the way that like she also built Nubank, which is also very being bold and being creative. It was like the first card that was like purple or like a different color than like any other card, and people were like at the time like, what's happening here?
So being disruptive.
Being disruptive. Yeah.
Thank you.
For
And
me,
yourself?
Melanie Perkins, we were speaking about Canva.
Yeah.
I think she's one of the CEO and co-founders. And yeah, I think Canva's just revolutionized the game, and it's a great product.
Such a fan.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. Great answers. One tool you absolutely can't live without besides ChatGPT.
LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, the social media account. I was thinking on stuff other than social media. I would say probably Notion. Notion is where I keep like my life organized, and where I keep like everything in place, like my trackers and all of that. So I really love Notion.
Nice one. So it's talking about how to be organized when you're actually going into that mood of being driven. In terms of most underrated skill in tech hiring, do you think?
I would say critical thinking, or like a lot of people care a lot about like the actual skill for the role, which obviously is very important. But I think showcasing that critical thinking, that you can be, whatever problem is thrown at you, you can find a way to at least come up with a solution, I think is very important, especially in tech, because it's always changing, things are innovating. Like one day one thing happens, the other day there's a regulation, so you have to like completely change it around. So I think that level of critical thinking is super key, especially in tech.
Excellent. Thank you, Roxanne.
Yeah, I mean, adaptability kind of like matches with the answer that you're giving, which is being able to adapt to different circumstances very quickly, especially like with the age of AI right now. And I think, to give a different answer, I would say leveraging AI in your job. I feel like there are a lot of people that are scared of AI and they don't want to like touch AI because they think it's going to replace their job. But realistically, like the people that don't know how to leverage AI are not going to have a job. So you need to like keep up with wanting to learn more about it, and like learning what is it that you can like focus on for the next couple of years that AI won't be able to replace. And the things that AI can replace, like you have AI support to do that.
Yeah. And I think even to add on that, it actually pairs well with like, because I think people need to know how to use AI, but in order to embellish their critical thinking, because a lot of people will use AI to do the work for them. First of all, it's very obvious. As like so it's like
mass market thing.
like it's very obvious, and then if they're doing the work for you, that just showcases that your work is replaceable. So what makes you not replaceable is you using AI to like make it even better. So it's like the way you should be thinking about AI is that it's your thought partner. It makes the mundane, very like repeatable tasks, it can get rid of that. But if literally you're finding that every single point of your job you can just use by like throwing into ChatGPT or throwing into an AI tool, that's a very strong indication that your role or the way you go about your role is replaceable. So, you know, we see this, companies are laying off, they're slashing teams. The ones that they're keeping, because it's not like the team's going to go. Like, you know, if we talk about marketing, customer success, sales, like if before you had a team of 20, it's not like all of a sudden you're going to have a team of 0. Like the team still needs to be there. It's just that it can be a lot smaller because of AI. The people that they're going to keep are the people that have the softer skills, which is like the critical thinking, the adaptability, problem solving, all of these kind of things. So if you're not able to showcase that, or if you're not able to showcase how you use AI to help you so that you can spend more time on like those critical adaptability skills, all of those are the people that are essentially going to get replaced or like that are more at risk of having less job security.
Thank you, Roxanne. Highly resonate with your answers. Also because most recently on the interview with our joint acquaintance, Kelly Hartman, she actually said that one of her key questions at the interview currently is, tell me, how are you utilizing AI in your role? So not just what tools you're utilizing, but how are you utilizing? And that's where your answers, I think, comes across as very key, because, you know, you just wouldn't want to showcase that, yeah, I'm an adapter, you know, I can utilize all of these tools quite easily. It's not about that. It's about the how, because if you're over relying on that, that keeps you out of the role that you're aspiring for or already doing, isn't it? And that's a nice wrap up to kindly thank you for the experience today, because I think it's been not only insightful for those who will be watching after, but also packed with competitive advantage tips for anyone who's looking to upgrade their visibility. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.